The kitchen is quiet, the house is still waking up, and there's a specific comfort in watching that first plume of steam rise from a fresh, hot cup of tea. It's that initial hit of warmth and aromatic clarity, setting the rhythm for the entire day. But too often, what ends up in the mug doesn't match that expectation. We rush the process and end up with a brew that's lukewarm, oddly flat, or dominated by a harsh, biting bitterness that coats the back of the throat. Every batch of tea responds to a predictable sequence of controlled variables. To control those variables, you only need 4 reliable instruments: a kettle, a digital timer, a heavy ceramic mug, and your loose-leaf tea of choice. When you align these few tools properly, you take the guesswork out of the morning. You turn a rushed habit into a precise, repeatable baseline, yielding a perfect cup every time. The process begins before you even touch the tea. The very first action is bringing fresh, cold, filtered water to the kettle. If there is water sitting in the kettle from yesterday, pour it down the sink. Boiling the same water twice degrades the final flavor. This happens because heating water forces out dissolved oxygen. When water sits overnight or undergoes a second boil, its oxygen levels plummet, leaving the resulting tea tasting dull and noticeably flat. Black teas need a rolling boil at 212 degrees, while green teas require a cooler 175. Boiling water scorches fragile green leaves, destroying grassy notes. Conversely, cool water fails penetrating dense black tea, stalling extraction and leaving weak colored water. Honoring the specific thermal threshold of the leaf you are brewing is the only way to pull the intended flavor profile into the cup without dragging the harsh, burnt compounds along with it. With the water coming to temperature, we shift our focus away from the kettle and look at the empty ceramic mug sitting on the counter. The ceramic looks benign, but its heavy mass is sitting at room temperature, which poses an immediate threat to the water you just carefully heated. This graph illustrates the problem. When you pour perfectly heated water into a cold mug, the thick ceramic instantly absorbs the heat. The water's temperature drops by up to 15 degrees on contact, crashing right out of the critical extraction zone. To neutralize this, we use a technique called warming the vessel. Pour a splash of hot water, swirl it for a few seconds, then pour it down the drain. Now, place your tea leaves into the pre-warmed mug. When you pour the full volume of water, move the spout in a slow, continuous circle directly over the leaves to ensure every single piece is evenly submerged. As the hot water hits the dry leaves, they aggressively uncoil and expand. This rapid physical opening is known as the agony of the leaves. The second pouring stops, start your timer. The clock is the non-negotiable arbiter of the steep, managing the rapid chemical transformation happening in the water. By warming the mug to preserve the initial heat and thoroughly saturating the leaves, you've created the optimal, stable environment for flavor extraction. Now, you wait. Let the timer count all the way down to 0 without stirring, poking, or otherwise interfering with the liquid. During the final minute of a scheduled steep, the desirable complex carbohydrates and essential oils dissolve into the water, rounding out the body of the tea. The second the timer alarm sounds, lift the infuser straight up and out of the water. Do not press, pinch, or squeeze the wet tea leaves with a spoon. It is an incredibly common habit, and it ruins the entire brew. Squeezing the leaves applies physical pressure that ruptures the plant cells. This forces the release of tannins, which are dense, naturally occurring bitter compounds that were intentionally left behind during the gentle steeping process. This flowchart shows how that pressure floods the cup with those rigid molecules. Once introduced, these excess tannins bind to the proteins in your saliva, causing a harsh, dry, astringent sensation that overpowers the rest of the cup. The goal of timed extraction is to gently coax out delicate aromatics, leaving those bitter, heavy elements locked safely deep inside the physical leaf. With the infuser removed, you can look at the liquid and verify the success of the brew. The amber color should be deep but perfectly clear, without the cloudy murkiness that comes from overagitation. You will also see a steady, gentle steam rising from the surface, proving the pre-warmed mug retained the necessary temperature from start to finish. Because the base infusion contains only the intended aromatics, you can now add milk or honey without needing to mask any underlying bitterness. By controlling the water freshness, the thermal shock, and the extraction time, you eliminate the gamble. You guarantee a perfect, predictable, and deeply comforting start to your morning, every single time.